and welcome to Modern Pilgrim's Adventures. We're typically traveling in a motorhome, but sometimes we don't always do. Oh, by the way, introduce yourselves. I'm Christopher.
And I'm Crystal.
Also known as Big Daddy and
Little Mama.
Little Mama. You see me say that sometimes in the videos, and I might just call her Mom or things like that. It's just kind of some pet names that we use. And like I said, typically we're in our motorhomes, but now we're going to talk today about one that we did not take to motorhomes, and that was a Carnival cruise adventure. Kind of started as a nightmare for us, and we will get into that in a minute. And we went from when was it?
On Thanksgiving week.
Of 2021 this year, so it was recently, and we went out of the port of New Orleans, and that's kind of where the trouble kind of started. We base out of the Mississippi Gulf Coast, so that's about a 45-minute to an hour drive. So we go there. Our parents came with us, as well as our daughter, 16-year-old daughter. And so we get there. Things seem to be going okay. You have to, when you pull in there, you have to drop the bags off, and then you have to go and park the car. So we drop the bags off. I run and take the car and park them, and then come back, pick them up. We're getting ready to go into the building, and then the first thing they ask for is, I need to see your IDs and everything else, of course. So we showed them, and then they're really pushing the mask at this point. I mean,
yes.
When we're getting out of the car, it's like, mask up, and you're outside, and you're like holding some luggage, and you're trying to get your stuff on, so they were mask. So you go to the first little stop, and they have your mask, they check your boarding passes that you have those. So then they send you along to the next one. So the next one we go was to checking your baggage in. You check your online baggage. It was already done when you get out of the car. And when you're getting on board, everything you'll carry on board, they put through like scanners and everything else. And for me, man, this is where the nightmare started. So we go through, and you're allowed to bring a bottle of wine apiece or a bottle of champagne. So I like a Cabernet, and she's like more of a blush type person. So we had those stored in the bag. So we're going through the little security line. We get there, they pull the bags through, and see them back it up. And they said, well, we have to look at the wine that you had. I'm like, sure, take it out. So they took it out. This wine was corked, and it was vacuum sealed or shrink wrapped or whatever you call it. It was this mean lady. She was mean. And she was mean, and she just said, this is not the correct. I'm like, what do you mean it's not correct? She said, I've seen wine, that's a different color. I'm thinking, lady, what are you, a wine connoisseur? You can't.
The temperature was off.
Yeah. I'm like, what? It's not open and sealed. She said, it's been tampered with. I'm like, it's not tampered with.
So needless to say, they confiscated our wine.
Yeah, right off the bat. And she said it was the color was not matching. I'm like, it's a blush. They're not all the same. And then the Cabernet was dark, and she said, I'm like, no. And old Softy here just simply says, honey, let's just go. I'm like, okay, so we just move on to the next phase. What was the next phase?
COVID testing.
Oh no, COVID vaccinations. They wanted to see your vaccination cards.
Right, which we did that.
We did that. And then you have to have proof that you've gone in, 24 to 48 hours prior to the test. So what did we have done?
It does say on the website, the Carnival website, that you could self-test and bring it with you as long as you had a picture of it.
And if you're done with a medical professional, which by the way, we're both in the medical field, we're both nurses, so we're tested weekly. So we use some of those tests that we were tested, and we had the result. We took our driver's license, laid by the card. Our daughter had a learner's permit. We put the card by there. We put the date that the test was taken.
And it did say you could use an at-home kit.
Right, and we had the date it was taken and the time it was taken, and you could clearly see the negative results. So what happened?
So we get there, and they said, we just changed the policy this morning when we had a meeting. This is now unacceptable. We cannot take this. You all have to get COVID tested, and it is going to cost you a fortune.
That's not really what they said, because there was a little argument. First, I'm like, well, what do you mean? These are the actual tests that we took, and the dates are on there. You can see we took them. They're like, no, and she's right. They said we took those tests this morning. I'm thinking, well, you can't change the policy. We're here. So then they send us to another little room over there, and I'm like, what are we going to do? I don't have time to leave to test them. We've already got a couple $1,000s in the trip. And so they said, yeah, well, we can test you. It's really aggravating, but okay. And how much is that going to cost?
It was about $450 for the three of us.
Mm-hmm. An extra $450.
And a lot of people save a long time for this trip. And so then you're not expecting that, and then it's tacked on that you have to pay right there. And they're like, oh, don't worry, we'll just put it on your Carnival,
Your sign account.
You're still paying for it regardless, so I'm not really sure what that matters. They herded us into a room with
but a lot of other people.
Hundreds of other disgruntled people who also had brought COVID tests that they did not accept.
So then they proceed to call you in there, they test you. Pretty much the same test that we just showed them. So it's like are you got a racket going on? So by this time, her parents had went through a clinic and they're waiting over there. And I'm arguing with the lady, discussing. I don't know if arguing was correct. I guess arguing. I guess I was arguing with her. And I'm thinking, wait a minute. So what does it have to be? If it's from a clinic and it had the letterhead on there, it would be fine. And so I said, so you're telling me that I could have typed a generic letterhead on there and said negative COVID test, you accept that? And she said, yeah.
Which we would have not have done.
No, we took the test. I mean, legitimately. So I'm thinking, you would take that over a legitimate test. And she's like, well, you know, thinking, are you kidding me? So, needless to say, we did that. So we find that, and finally we're like, okay, I think we're getting on board now. So we go, and the next stop, what happened here?
We had our daughter. We have passports. She does not. She's only 16.
But she is actually, yeah, she turned 16 the day we got there because she was going to get her driver's license before we got there. But the day before was the day before her birthday, and they wouldn't let her get her driver's license until she was actually 16. So she turned 16 that day.
So she had a permit. We showed her permit. We also had a birth certificate, which we showed. And they kept saying, this doesn't look like her. We don't know if this is her. And I'm like, what? Like, she's right here. She got her braces off. She had braces in the permit picture. She didn't have braces on now. It's the same person. Trust me, we don't want to bring any more children along with us that are not ours.
Yeah, we're not terrorists, we're terrorist children. What are you talking about? So this lady again, they come out, and I'm thinking, are you kidding me?
They brought about 5 more people. Come look at her. Come look at her.
Yeah, they brought people, and she said, pull your mask down, and she's standing there looking like,
look this way. Do this.
And they said, well, she's 16, she don't have a license. I'm like, look at her birthday. She turned 16 today. I've got her birth certificate. I got this. And it was horrendous. And finally, I'm like, lady, are you kidding me? And four, uno, dos, tres, cuatros came and approved that. And then finally they said, okay, you can get on board. So by this time, you kind of walk around the corner and you get ready to go to the gangway to get on the boat. And I'm mad. I mean, I've done had enough. She's sitting there.
They want you to take a little picture.
Yeah, first picture, everybody's getting on the boat, everybody's happy.
Yeah, that's what we looked like in the picture.
And I'm like, I won't take no dadgum picture. I've had enough. Let's get off. If I'd have $2,000 here, I'm out. And she's trying to calm me down like, honey, it's going to be okay. It is not okay. But the other side of the story, we've been on other cruises before. We even won a trophy for like
the
newlywed games. And so we kicked butt on there. So there's a reason we went back with Carnival. So after all of that, and I don't know if this was the Port of New Orleans employees, but they had Carnival shirts on. And the security lady's like, what do you mean? She like linebacker for the Saints or something. But that part was horrendous. But when we got on the boat, things did turn around. And here's a little clip of what you saw on the boat. Now, as you see, it got a little more lively once you got on the boat. It was really a good time on the boat, and so it did turn out well. You really enjoyed the shows.
Yeah, I had a fabulous time. All the staff was 5-star. They were on top of everything. Anything you asked for, it was great. The food was great. The entertainment, everything was good once you got on the boat.
I pouted about 3 days, but after that, it turned really well.
Stop it.
Yeah, I would go to Bingham. Be really mean. But the one thing about this cruise, we did go to Honduras. We went to Belize and Cozumel, and the ports were excellent, and we have other videos that are showing those particular day trips themselves. That was phenomenal. But the one thing about the boat was in the Lido deck you saw there was no mask. But when you went in the restaurants or to the shows, you did have to wear masks. Literally, when you walk into the food, they're like, "Put on your mask, put on your mask," and they're like yelling at you, and you're thinking, is there a COVID barrier? That was a little aggravating, I'll be honest with you. But they had all the masks for you and everything else, and they were very cordial. And
yeah, the shows, they did a little sip and cover. You know, you'd sip and cover with your mask.
Or just keep sipping.
But it was fine.
But it ended up turning out very well. And as always, we thank you for watching Modern Pilgrims Adventures. The quote of the day, Carpe Diem. Very simple, seize the moment. So we hope you seize the moment. Enjoy life because we did.